Hello friends, welcome back to my channel called Ayan Singhi. So let's get continued with our story of part 3. Me and Greg went further back in the woods to get away from those teens. Greg said we should build a fort so if they came for us, we could protect ourselves. So we spent the rest of the afternoon making a fort out of the sticks and logs. Greg said we should put some rocks in our fort in case things got really bad, but it was starting to get dark and there weren't a lot of rocks lying around the woods anyway. But then I tripped over something and guess what? It was a big rock. I told Greg I thought I sprained my ankle, but he was a lot more worried about that rock in my injury. Greg said it wasn't a rock, it was a gravestone, and we just disturbed an ancient burial ground. I guess you already knew it was coming because it was in the title of this chapter. I probably change it later on so I don't give the surprise away. Anyway, me and Greg were totally spooked out by this ancient burial ground thing, and by now it was really dark out, so we were extra scared. But Greg must have totally forgot about my ankle because he took off and I couldn't keep up. I kept waiting for Greg to come back, but he never did. Luckily, my parents called Greg's house to ask where was I, and that helped them remember I was still out there. And just to show you what a great pal Greg is, he let my parents borrow his flashlight and pointed them in the right direction. An even more scary story. Okay, while I'm on the topic of some scary stuff, I want to share a story about something that happened a couple of years ago. One time I was at my grandpa's log cabin with my dad for the weekend and we took a hike. I got kind of dirty. Well, technically, it's my dad's cabin now because my grandpa died a year before. I called my grandpa Bampy and the reason I called him that when I was 2, I couldn't say grandpa. Bampy. But when I got older, I could say grandpa. Nobody would let me change it. And when my grandpa got older, it's the only word he really said. We love you, Dad. Bampy. So anyway, back to the story. After I got dirty from the hike, my dad said I had to take a shower. But Bampy's cabin was really old and it doesn't have a shower. It just has one of those creepy old-fashioned tubs. After I filled up the tub with water and got in, here's what happened next. I heard footsteps come in the hall and I thought it was my dad bringing a towel or something. Dad! Then the door opened real slow, but guess what? No one was even there. Creak. I jumped out of the tub and ran around the house looking everywhere for my dad. And if you're thinking, oh Ravali, the whole thing was your dad playing a trick on you. Well, guess what? It wasn't. My dad was getting some milk at the store and he didn't come back until like a half hour later. I told my dad what happened with the door and he said it was probably just the wind. but I know what it was. It was the ghost of Bampy. Bampy. The time Greg played a hilarious prank on me. Okay, I know the last chapter didn't have a lot of Greg in it, but I wanted to mention the story real quick because the vampire thing totally freaked me out. If you like the scary stuff, then you are in luck because this one's pretty scary too. One day, me and Greg were hanging out at my house, and Greg told me he saw in the news that there was a burglar going around breaking into people's homes. Then he said he had to go home for dinner, and once he left, started getting scared because my parents weren't around. But here's the thing, I found out later that Greg just pretended to leave. He shut the front door but then stayed inside my house. Slam! He took off his shoes and walked up the stairs super quiet so I couldn't hear him. Then he started stomping around real loud upstairs. But at first I thought it was this ghost of Bambi all over again. Then I realized it was probably that burglar Greg told me about, and I almost peed my pants for the second time in this biography. Stomp, stomp! I heard footsteps coming down the stairs, and I ran into the garage to hide from the burglar. It was pitch black in the garage, but I didn't want to make a move and, until I was sure the guy was gone. And all of a sudden, the door to the garage opened real slow, and I knew the burglar was gonna get me if I didn't do something. So I whacked him in the face with my dad's tennis and made a run for it. Whack! Then I ran in the out of the front door and told Mrs. Monroe's house next door to tell her to call the cops. But then Greg came out of my house, and that's when I found the whole thing that was just one of his hilarious pranks. Greg was mad at me for the whole week, and he said I should have known from the way footsteps sounded. It was him, not a burglar. I guess he was a pretty good point about us. He's always playing wacky pranks on me, so I feel kind of bad wacky, about whacking him with a racket. Another time, Greg got bad at me. Okay, the last story made me remember another time Greg got mad at me. Me and Greg were walking home from school a few months ago, and there were slugs everywhere because it just rained the night before. And whenever there are slugs lying around, Greg chases me with one. Scream! I guess it was pretty funny if you think about it, but it's never that funny when it's happening. So I'm gonna tell you the rest of the story in part 4. Thank you.